Welcome to Tiffany Turned On. I'm your host, Tiffany Anton. I'm a psychotherapist specializing in sex and relationships. I hope to help you get turned on in life as well as inside of your bedroom. I'm checking out the book called Designer Relationships, A Guide to Happy Monogamy, Positive Polyamory, and Optimistic Open Relationships, How to Create What Works for You by the authors Mark Michaels and Patricia Johnson. So in this book here, it's talking about two concepts. One is true monogamy and social monogamy. And so social monogamy is the formation of a lifetime pair bond, and it's found in an estimate 3 to 5% of mammals, and is frequently accompanied by extra pair copulation, or what's called cheating in humans. True monogamy is extremely rare and has only been observed as a typical arrangement in one primate species, the owl monkey.
What?
Yes, we don't even make it to humans. It's the primate species, owl monkeys. So what about, though, monogamy in human history? According to this book, it says here, social monogamy, not true monogamy, was the dominant model until very recently. Even after the development of agriculture, human societies have evidenced a vast array of sexual and social arrangements, few of which have treated lifelong sexual exclusivity between two people as the ideal. Now that's interesting. We've been around 150,000 years. In the Western world, monogamy only became the rule during the early Common Era. So like we would say 2018 CE. So regardless of history, true monogamy was the ideal in American culture from the Puritan era until the late 20th century, and the beliefs accompanying this idealism continue to have profound influence today. I think our social standard is you need to be with the opposite sex, married, stay married all of your life, and you're only allowed to have sex with one person. Yes. Right? Isn't that what our American culture reinforced?
That's what we've been taught.
So true monogamy is still the only model that social conservatives endorse, as is indicated by the slogan, one man, one woman, until death do us part. Let's think about just 200 years ago. Death us did part at a much younger age.
Yeah.
Both you and I are 45.
We would have been dead.
You think we would have been dead in the 40s? This demands not only heterosexuality, but also lifelong sexual exclusivity. It's saying that there's two different types of monogamy, the social kind where, we pair bond, but then we can kind of step out. And then the other one is true monogamy, which is extremely rare, which is lifelong marriage and lifelong sexual exclusivity to one partner. So Sandra and I are hanging out and we're talking about differences in open relationships. So we have the social expectation of true monogamy, one man, one woman, one bed with only each other in it for the rest of our life. How is that really relevant in today's society? A lot of people don't understand some of the differences in open relationships. If I say open relationship to you, what's the first image that comes to your mind?
The first image that comes to my mind is that both partners have the ability to honestly play sexually outside the marriage.
Mm-hmm. I love the word that you just said, play sexually, because play is so lost in our erotic lives in general, even if you're keeping it heterosexual and sexually exclusive. I think play is absent.
Yes.
And that's vital in true monogamy. So in open relationships, you're viewing in the framework of consensual play with other partners while you are socially bonded to another person.
Yes,
right?
That's correct.
We think of, in open relationships, we can think of swinging. Since this podcast is inspired by the Designer Relationships book, Sandra and I are going to talk about different variants of consensual non-monogamy and swinging. Listen more, see if you want to swing, or if monogamy does or does not work for you. Or being in the lifestyle.
Yes, but that's very, very different, in my opinion, than having an open relationship. I'm not even sure if swingers would consider people that are in an open relationship actually swingers.
If you're in a swinging relationship, you might not say we're in an open relationship. You might clarify it as we're swingers.
Yes. In my experience, people that are swingers are seriously for sex as a sport.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Some people like to play tennis or play golf, and swingers just like to have sex with other people. Consensually, with the knowledge of their partner, whether it be a married partner or, a boyfriend or girlfriend.
Committed partnership.
A committed partnership.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Some have rules that I've read. One of the books on swinging, actually, where both partners have to be present. Sometimes it's just where one partner, they bring in another male or they bring in another female to kind of spice things up in their relationship. Or they could go to parties or also clubs for swinging.
Swinging is a choice between the couple, and they would go to maybe parties or have private parties at their home and choose to be sexual with other individuals. And each couple has their own rules. So you were talking about sometimes couples' rules are that we have sex play in the same room.
Yes.
Even if we're with different partners.
Yes.
Some couples have it in different rooms. What about if you're in a coupleship and you both swing? Do you both have to attend the party? Or
Not
does
necessarily.
one person can just attend?
Yes.
Depending upon the rules that work for them?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very personalized to what works best for their relationship with.
In my very limited experience, you said sex for sport, and I think of sport fucking. I even get a little bit more intense than that. Is that
I was trying to be polite.
You were trying to be polite?
I was trying to be polite, but That's exactly what it is, sport fucking.
I noticed a couple of things, which was how nice and respectful the couples were that attended the party. Just, of course you're going to get open-minded. There was some alcohol, but no intoxication at all. Have you experienced that? And learning about the swingers' lifestyle, the role that alcohol plays? I know in New Orleans, in Colette's, which is the private swinging club, is that you can bring alcohol, but they do not sell it on the premises.
Yeah, and for liability reasons, it's always smart. You don't want anybody to be under the influence or think that someone's being coerced by alcohol or substances, because it's definitely all about choice and about what you...
Yeah, so we don't want our minds altered.
Correct.
Yeah. So like I said, in my limited experience, it was really open-minded, relaxed couples, sober. And when it was time to be sexual, it really was just getting down.
Well, and the goal is coming.
The goal is coming?
The goal is coming.
Well, what about if you're a male and you want to be at a swinging party for 3 hours and you came in the first 20 minutes? Are you going to take some Viagra to shorten your refractory period?
Well, I have seen men pop those little blue pills before to be able to keep. But you also have to think, I would say a good portion of the men who attend the parties aren't always able to perform on cue.
Oh, goodness, in our own bedrooms it can be like that.
Yes, can you imagine being surrounded by other men or other men and women in the same venue?
Well, it could either fuel performance anxiety or fuel like that stud-like masculinity.
Yes, it's interesting to see the dynamics, the people, and how it all plays out.
What I noticed is that the women were coming easily and the men weren't coming.
Yes. And I've also heard that some relationships that consider themselves swingers, the men will not come at all with playmates, and yet at the end of the night will come back together with their partner
and have an orgasm at that time.
Only then will they.
Okay. I also saw a lot of condoms being used.
Yes, always safe.
And bowls of condoms around. I know research says that there isn't any increase in STDs in that particular community that reflects any differently than mainstream society.
Yes.
Because we'd make the assumption that
they're very health conscious. As a group.
I think that there is more of an ability for women to be sexual with women at swinging parties than there is for men to be with men.
Absolutely.
I'm talking about traditional swinging parties. Now, there's all different variants of that, but if you're looking at mainstream swinging.
Yeah, I would say the majority of women who do attend swinging events are bisexual or bi-curious.
Right.
Whereas the men who are also bi-curious or bisexual is very, very slim. Mm-hmm. And even if they were, they more than likely would not entertain an interaction at a party. It would be something set up at a separate time.
That's what I was thinking, is that they'd probably need to meet a particular couple.
Yes, and set up something later.
That were interested in same-sex encounters as well as opposite-sex encounters. But doesn't it suck that we as women have a lot more sexual freedom? Well, it doesn't suck that we have sexual freedom, but the point I'm trying to make is that women have more sexual freedom to share ourselves with same-sex than men do.
it's very interesting to watch because women are more
can be pretty sexy.
Very sexy. And what
seeing two women together can be really sexy.
But the women who attend these parties that are bisexual are really into other women, and they may have a committed relationship, heterosexual relationship at home, have gotten permission with the husband to go into these venues and actually seek out bisexual relationship or experience. Usually it's just a one-time experience, but sometimes it can be more. The men are also getting off on
because
watching
society
the women.
says, let's think about the popularity of lesbian porn.
Yes.
Or threesomes.
Yes.
And when we look up threesomes, it's usually, one male with two females.
Yes.
The two females with each other, or the two females playing with the male at the same time. I just think that it really limits men in their own sexual expression because they're staying within their heterosexual box.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know a friend of mine who swings and is sexual with other women would not consider herself bisexual or even much bi-curious, but instead just enjoys being sexual in a party manner with other women. But it's really within that container as well.
Well, the energy at these parties,
I would just say hot.
It can be very passionate and moving, and it's like the whole atmosphere is full of electricity.
That would be an exciting feeling.
Yes, and it can be a somewhat terrifying feeling as well. But yeah, it's all in good fun. It's all in good fun.
I just know when I went to a party, it was like really fast sex. So everybody's having sex, and it's real fast sex, fast intercourse, fast oral sex. And I just want everybody to slow it down. I missed eye contact. I missed the slowness that comes with lovemaking. This isn't lovemaking.
It's sport fucking.
It's sport fucking.
Let's get off. Let me get you off. You get me off. Let's do it quick. On to the next.
On to the next, yeah. But it can be a real playful environment. It can be a great way for highly committed couples to have sexual adventurous periods of time where they know that where the partner's going to be. They decide that ahead of time. They decide their rules ahead of time. And they go home together.
And then they have hot sex.
You think they have hot sex after the swinging party ends?
Yes.
That's a lot of sex in a night.
I know. I think a lot of them get really charged up by everything they've seen and heard and experienced from that night. And they're just like, yeah.
Well, in another podcast, I was talking about the concept of compersion, which is the excitement and pleasure we experience by knowing that our partner has had an enjoyable experience themselves. So I think of all the erotic images that are around you in a swinging party, the behaviors that we engage in, and then feeling compersion for their partner and what they experience for each other, and then bringing that passion back home with them. A lot of times those parties go really late, like 3 a.m.
Or even later.
Even later than 3 a.m? I feel like I'm a pumpkin at 11 p.m. I got to take a nap if I'm going to go to one of those parties then.
I don't know how these men do it.
They drink coffee and Viagra at 8 p.m. Now, you mentioned that kind of consensual open relationships, and swinging is just merely one of them. And I was saying, and the experience I had is that I missed some of that eye contact, the slowness, that the sport fucking piece was fun and playful, but was lacking connection. And that may feel really safe for couples, right? Because you don't have that emotional connection.
Right.
Yet with polyamory, that's really about having a relationship with another person. We've been discussing swinging. Now I'd like to add a little poly to this discussion. Learn about different types of polyamory, some of the challenges, and some of the joys. So let's say that Tom and Betty are swingers, then they go to the swinging party, they have their rules, they engage in the sex play there, and then they go home and have their regular lives. Well, what if Tom and Betty were in a polyamorous relationship? How might that look different?
I think, there was even that show, was it HBO or Showtime? It was called Polyamory. Have you ever watched that?
No.
It was amazing. It was really a great show.
Now, was it a documentary or was it a sitcom?
It wasn't
drama?
a sitcom. It was actually more of a documentary, and followed these couples in California, how their relationships looked outside of real life, but really the focus was on their polyamorous relationships.
Uh-huh.
And basically, these people really had full-on relationships were with multiple people at the same time.
So it would be like Tom and Betty having a core relationship, and then Betty could partner with Stephanie or Stephen.
Yes.
And then Tom could partner with a Stephen or a Stephanie too.
Yes.
But completely different.
Yes. All almost like one big happy family, if that makes any sense.
Well, there's so many different dynamics to it. So if I can go back to this Tom and Betty example, is that we can be polyamorous couplehoods, and you could each have another primary partner that's just one. And so they have their couple dates nights with each other, but then they have their planned extra dates on the side. And all those relationships are highly valued and prioritized. Is it still an open relationship if Betty's dating Stephen, let's say married to Tom or committed to Tom, Betty's dating Brad, Betty's dating David, okay. And then Tom just has one. I mean, how many varieties of this open can we have?
I think as many varieties as each person is comfortable with and the core relationship is comfortable with. Mm-hmm. I mean, my thing is, what I thought was absolutely fascinating, and I agree with it from watching that series, Polyamory, just like when you have a child and then you have another child. You don't love one less because you love one. Mm-hmm. You have another child to love. I think it's completely natural for you to want other relationships and be able to love other people and not necessarily in platonic atmosphere.
I was thinking that we often view love as finite. Like if you love someone else, you can't love me. Whereas love isn't something that runs out.
No, it doesn't.
But at the same time, I have this ego-driven desire to be like, I want to be my partner's best lover, or I want to be the one loved the most.
And you know what I'm going to tell you with that?
Yeah.
That's ego.
Yes, that's what I was saying. It was completely ego-driven.
That is all ego and not, that's just I, me.
Yes.
And that's not really what love's about.
I know. I'm trying to be realistic, though, is that how I would feel. Like I would be excited for my partner, to share him or herself. But at the same time, I'd still want to feel like they're number one.
And you would be if you were the primary relationship. And as long as you're in open communication with each other, it would be, it would be fine. I mean, every relationship has ups and downs. In my perspective, and from what I've seen, just in regular relationships, platonic relationships, it's like every person who comes into your life teaches you something about yourself and makes you more self-aware.
Yes.
So if you are able to go into relationships and experience things deeper than just platonically, I think you become just a more self-aware person that just helps you really understand the world.
When I have worked with polyamorous clients in my practice, there has been one main focus, and so this is consistent. And the main focus is we're here to get a balance. Because sometimes if you're poly and have the core relationship, because again, I'm going to talk a minute about you don't always have to have a core relationship, is that when you're together and you have your days together. So let's say Tuesdays and Thursdays are your date nights with others and the rest of the time that you're together. Well, the rest of the time we're together, we're taking the kids to soccer, we're paying the bills, we're coming home, trying to relax after a tough day at work, or we're getting stuff done in the yard. And we're not doing the purposeful dating that we are with our other partner. I don't want to say secondary because that sounds disrespectful. Important relationship, let's just say that. Your additional important relationship. So the couples come to see me so they can work on prioritizing that original relationship so that it's not just kids and household tasks. They also can keep the passion between them and to keep specialized dates.
Well, in every relationship, you have to make time for the person you have a relationship with and making that a priority. Just like when we were talking about people cheating, it's people are pouring all their effort into all these extramarital affairs. Whereas if they actually poured some of that energy into their primary relationship,
how would it thrive?
Yes. Or how would it look different?
Right. Well, I think some of those relationships really would thrive if they got the extra attention that they were giving their Mr. or mistress. But sometimes, even if you bring all that energy into the primary relationship, you just still might not get a response. Like, right. I think some partners might be, you're overwhelming me with your attention, or your sex drive is too much for me to manage.
Right. Everybody's different.
So there's the polyamory that both partners engage in additional relationships. And then there's polymono. So if we go back to Tom and Betty, let's make Betty the poly and Tom the mono. So it might be Tom is completely monogamous to Betty, and he doesn't have any extra relationships. Yet Betty has Stephen. Mm-hmm. It could be just Stephen only, or Stephen and Stephanie. But that's how the polymono piece fits together. What about the monogamish term that has been popularized lately? Have you heard of monogamish?
I'm sorry, I have not. What is monogamish?
Okay. Famous guy out west. I'm
monogamish.
Yes, I'm
like not really
name.
monogamous.
People who are listening are going to be yelling out this famous guy's name. Hey, Tiffany, this is your brain reminding you that the monogamish term comes from Dan Savage. Dan Savage is famous for his Savage Love show. But it's more the concept of we are mostly monogamous. Tom and Betty would be a core couple, and we know on occasion Tom might choose a sexual encounter with someone else, or Betty may choose a sexual encounter with someone else. And they can have an agreement on their occasions. They can either keep them quiet, like, I'm letting you know it's okay with me if you step out, if you go on business trips, and I'd like for you to tell me about it if you have the plans, or to tell me about it afterwards. Or some people are like, I'm okay if this happens on an occasion each year, but I'd prefer us not to talk about it. So that's like monogamish. So that is kind of what many people do without the complicit agreement. Like if we think about the high levels of cheating, is that they, tend to stay monogamous with the person and have occasional bouts of being sexual with others. So this is just...
So those aren't really like long-term relationships. These are just little flings.
Yes, these tend to be flings.
Gotcha. More than sport fucking, but flings.
Flings, yes.
Okay.
Now you may have a regular fling, but it would be more limited. So it might be like 3 times a year.
Not 3 times a month.
Not 3 times a month. No, I think that's more in the poly realm or the cheating realm. Mm-hmm.
Or a true affair.
But yes, but you could also swing 3 times a month. And we talked about the differences in swinging and poly.
Yeah, but usually...
That's a lot of partying.
That's a lot of partying, and it's rarely the same
people?
Partner. Yeah.
Okay.
You're just
you have a lot of, depending upon what swinging party that you go to, the
who's
variety
available.
Of people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And who interests you and your partner. You think you would think hard. It's hard enough finding people that you like,
let alone that both you and your partner like.
Oh my gosh.
So how would that happen? So let's say you and I are a couple and we go to a swinging party and we meet another couple and their rules are we only swap together. But you don't really want to be with their partner B, even if I want to be with the partner A. So we'd have to work on a compromise.
We'd have to work on a compromise. We'd have to go, okay, do you want me to take one for the team? But would I ask you to do that for me?
I would really only want you to share yourself sexually if that's what you wanted to do.
Yeah, so those are all these complex questions that have to be answered before you go into those types of situations.
All right, so let's say that...
You're having fun with this.
I am, because I'm thinking about being at a party, and there's the other couple that says we only swing together, and you're not interested in sharing yourself with them, but I am. Could you watch?
You can always ask.
Okay, so you could be a watching participant versus...
A voyeur versus an
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm such a voyeur. So that's one way to make it work. So we're talking about different varieties of open relationships, and we focus predominantly on 2 forms, which are polyamory and swinging. I know in the future we're going to talk about kink, and that can be within a monogamous relationship or an open relationship. Thanks for listening in, and I hope that no matter what your relationship is like, that it is healthy, adventurous, passionate, and honest. Because that's what turns me on.
Honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you could be kinky or you could be poly, but really being honest and vulnerable with yourself, that's the
Huge.
Tiffany turn on.
Yes, it is.
All right. If you'd like to take this podcast to the next level, I have a handful of recommendations. The book entitled The Ethical Slut, A Practical Guide to Polyamory, Open Relationship, and Other Adventures by the expert Dossie Easton. And because consensual non-monogamy can create some jealousy, I'm very excited by Kathy Labriola's workbook titled The Jealousy Workbook, Exercises and Insights for Managing Open Relationships. Another recommendation is Opening Up, a Guide to Creating and Sustaining Open Relationships by Tristan Taramino. Tristan also has a wonderful podcast under her name. If swinging interested you, check out Swinging for Beginners, An Introduction to the Lifestyle, Kay Bellamede. Again, the podcast today focused on designer relationships, a guide to happy monogamy, positive polyamory, and optimistic open relationships by Mark Michaels and Patricia Johnson. Thank you for listening, and enjoy taking this podcast to the next level. The music for Tiffany Turned On is provided by Kumasi Afrobeat. If you're interested in more of their music, you can find them online at kumasiafrobeat.com. KUMASIAFROBEAT.com. They are New Orleans' full Afrobeat band. They play to make you move. If you liked what you heard in today's episode, and you want to learn more about me, check out my website at neworleanssextherapy.com. I also have a TED Talk entitled I Love Pleasure from TEDx Vermilion Street.